Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Living Room Tour. We're here high above London in one of the newest, brand spanking new, high-rise, tall super buildings, whatever you want to call it these days, in a brand new living room with brand new technology, brand new questions, brand new audience, brand new album called New, and Paul McCartney. It's nice to see you. How are you?
Hey, Zane.
Nice.
Good to see you again.
You too.
Lovely.
Great to gather here.
Good to see all you people assembled here.
Yeah, we do. We have a live audience of fans and some press, most of which are here from paulmccartney.com. We have questions from paulmccartney.com. We also, obviously, because we're streaming this through the Bang & Olufsen website and on YouTube, that we have questions coming from that angle as well. So we have things to talk about.
Bang and Olufsen.
From both.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
They've been together for a while.
Oh, no.
It's a good marriage, apparently. So we have lots to talk about, man.
Yeah.
And first of all, I think one of the things that most people will be thinking right now is, well, we're going to hear about this record, and very soon they're going to hear this record, which is, obviously the single most important thing once they're finished. But I wondered kind of, what does a record become to you once it's released? Because to us, we get to own it, we get to live it, love it, cherish it. Is there an element of that for you still?
Yeah, it's funny, once you write the stuff, and then you have a lot of fun recording it, and then you get ready to release it. And I always forget it's like sitting an exam. And this is the oral. I always forget that. I always think, well, I'm just doing it for me. It's just a bit of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it for my family and stuff. Then when you put it out, you realize you're putting it out for people to have opinions on. And so it's a little bit mixed feelings releasing something. When I say, it's like you suddenly realize you've entered yourself for an exam that you didn't mean to enter yourself for.
And do you take the marks on board, what people give you? Do you follow
Depends if they're good marks.
You got someone vetting those for you?
Yeah, I'll tell everyone. Yes.
Well, I can tell you that having cast my eye over some of the key reviews that have come in so far for the record, it's been incredibly well received. People love the album.
There have been some good things people have been saying, which is great.
Do you listen to them, to your records?
Do I listen
for
to
enjoyment.
The critics?
Once they're done, no, the records, the albums.
Yeah, I do actually, yeah.
I love that.
I leave it for a little while, and I don't just play it non-stop. I leave it for a week or so, and then I'll just stick it on and try and fool myself that I haven't heard it before. And if I'm cooking or something, just stick it on the background and just check how it
sounds.
How it goes.
I always feel really bad for people who make this music, give it to us, and then can't face listening to it. And a lot of people I've interviewed through my life can't do that. I think, there's a far smaller percentage of people that do enjoy their records.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, isn't it? I mean, I often think about that you're so sort of worried about getting it right. And I say it only really happens at this point. Till then, you're going, it doesn't matter.
The anxiety drive.
The anxiety drive. We're having a great fun. And, with your producers, you're just grooving and you're doing things. And suddenly you think, oh, no, And yet then I think it can become a little bit difficult to listen to it because you're just looking for the little detail that's wrong. You're looking for the one little thing that you could have fixed. And of course, nobody else is.
Yeah.
They're all looking at it like a record.
Yeah.
And then I catch myself, I'll just suddenly will hear it. I go, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And then let myself off.
And the little things, I always find the little things that you perhaps are a little unsure about at first go on to have a life of their own and become a big part of the personality of those records. The letting go of the perfectionist side of. Are you a perfectionist in the studio or can you release?
Yeah, well, I am, because you kind of should be. You should care about what it is you're putting together. But for instance, when I was working with Ethan Johns on this album, I brought him a couple of acoustic songs, and I played them to him, and I said, well, so what do you want to do? He said, well, just go down in the studio. We were at Abbey Road. He said, just go down there and play it, just like you did to me. So I did that, and we did a take, and he says, that was great. So I'm going, well, was that the best I could do?
There's an element of, do I trust this? Is this that?
And do I trust him? Yeah. So I came back up and I said, well, I mean, that little bit of the vocals a bit wobbly. I'm sure I could sing that a bit better. He said, but it's you. It's vulnerable. And he said, it sounds really true to life. And so we left it, that track called Early Days. And we left it, and people have said to me, oh, I like that track.
Well, we're going to play a little bit of that track later on, not at this very point. I know they've got it queued up, but I want to refer to that a bit later on in the chat. But I think that you've touched on one of the really key elements of this record, which is that there's two distinctive sonic sides to the album. One is, a very honest, very organic approach, I guess, in reference to Giles and to Ethan's work. And then you've got Paul and Mark coming at it from, let's utilize the studio, let's build these songs up and have some ideas and create that. I mean, it's unique for an artist of any genre, but in particular rock and roll, to work with as many producers on one album, because, as you've referenced recently, it can create albums which sound a little bit discombobulated and, but there isn't a problem with that on this record.
Well, no, I wasn't supposed to have 4 producers. I was trying 4 producers with the aim of having 1. But
I'm assuming you didn't let the others know that you were, well, when I was in with Ethan, Mark, let me tell you.
Yeah. Sorry, guys, I'm going to be out of town.
Your phone rings.
Not you, Ethan.
Exactly, you're just in there with Giles and the phone rings. Sorry, it's Paul Epworth. I'm just going to leave the room for 5 minutes. I'll be back.
But I say, I enjoyed working with all of them. They're all great producers. I knew that before I went in.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether I'd get on well with them. And we did. We got on great and really enjoyed the process of making records. And so then I get the next stage of worry, which is, well, it's going to be too much of a patchwork quilt. It's going to look horrible. It's going to sound, disparate. It's not going to have any...
Cohesion.
Cohesion,
Yeah.
the very word. But I listened to it, and it didn't bother me. And then I listened to a Beatle album, something like the White Album, and it's all over the place. And I realized that actually was one of our strongest policy decisions with the Beatles, was to make the next track always different from the last one.
Yeah.
We literally would say to Ringo, did you use that snare on the last track? And he'd say, yeah. So, well, we got to change it.
Do another one.
I mean, literally, there was never the same drum on any track. So that encouraged me. I thought, you know what, it's good enough for the Beatles.
It's exciting, it's great. I mean, as soon as you get to a track like Save Us, you think you're off on one part of the journey, and then the next thing you know, you're weaving through Alligator and you end up somewhere else. And I mean, I know that, in some respects you brought songs to the table, in other respects you were encouraged to write in the studio. There's a question here from Twitter from David Corway saying, it's Caught in You, but what's the oldest song that made it onto the record? What was the first track that you can think of that ended up being on there that you wrote?
I think it's the track called Alligator. I had a little few weeks when I'd kind of settled into a regular system. What I would do is I'd take my little girl to school, my youngest daughter, and then I'd come back and I'd have some time before I would have to go and pick her up again. So, and I didn't have any plans, so I thought, this is perfect for writing.
It's called the magic hour for all the non-parents out there as well who are watching around the world. It's called the magic hour.
Yeah. So, I would just come home, get myself a little cup of tea or something, and sit with my guitar or piano, and on Alligator,
Yeah.
I was...
Cup of coffee, cup of tea as well? Something to...
just knocking right. It was actually a cup of green tea.
Yeah.
I wanted to feel zen.
Yep.
So what I would do normally, like what I would often do, is just mess around on guitar. And sometimes on this particular day, I was trying to find a chord I didn't know. Just because that one I know.
Yeah.
That one I know.
Yeah.
But so I was trying to find something.
And in a way, you were already starting what became new, because you're thinking, right, I'm going to start this with something fresh right from the very start.
That's true. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. That is true. So I was messing around, and I sort of found that.
It's not a natural songwriting chord, that. It's not something you would think would start anything.
But then I got it kind of going.
Yeah.
Need someone to come home to. Started just sort of getting the idea. Need someone to come home to. Need someone to come home to.
And you went there naturally, straight away. I mean, you just followed it.
It's kind of basically the same shape with these two.
And the words, I just need somebody to come home to. I need somebody to come home to. I mean, a lot of writers talk about tapping into, just, you talk about looking for clues. Other people refer to it as a muse, something that isn't so thought out. That came to you naturally from the music? It lent itself to that emotion?
Yeah. I think one of the things, like the muse aspect, was that I knew that in about 3 hours' time, 3 or 4 hours' time after I started, I would be going to ring Nancy, who was in New York, and I knew I'd wake her up. It was around about 12 o'clock, it was 7 o'clock for her. So this gave me a motivation to write something, then ring her up and say, "Morning, baby, you want to hear a song?"
You are such a player.
Smoothie.
That's amazing.
Come on, man.
Still writing songs for girls, basically, right? That's what
Would
it's
you like
all
to
about.
hear a song, honey?
Still writing songs for chicks. That's awesome. That's a great song, and I love what Mark did with it, production-wise as well. I love how he gave
We
it.
had a lot of fun on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was,
It's the second song on the album. The first song is called "Save Us," and it's one of my favorite songs on the record. I'm a real sucker for album first songs. I think your first statement has to be a strong one.
Well, that was kind of the first thing I'd written. But so when I was ready to record the album, I was going to look at the 4 producers and see who I got on with. So first of all, I went round to Paul Epworth in his studio. And I knew he'd done a lot of great work, but I didn't know him. I didn't know whether I was going to like his character or it was just be a bit something that didn't gel. So I went, he has his studio just above like a little shop in the high street. And I went up there, I said, "Okay, well, I've got my little bag of songs." He said, "Do you know what?" He said, "I've got this idea. I've got this feeling that what it should be like." So he started to give me this kind of up-tempo beat. And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay," realizing now, okay, we're going to make it up.
Yeah.
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah.
So
Neither did I, to be
I was
honest.
prepared. Well, it turns out he did that on a lot of the Adele stuff too.
Right.
That's his MO, he likes to come in. And at one point he looked at a guitar that was on a stand there, and he said, "I wonder what secrets that guitar is holding." So I said, "Okay, I get it."
Yeah, he's a real music romantic, Paul, I think, as well. He loves that side of things,
Yeah, and it is exciting. I mean, I've done that where I do a project called Fireman.
Yeah, we've talked about it.
And you know the Fireman stuff. And that is totally made up, and I really enjoy the improvisation of that. So that was it. So I just got on the piano, started banging away. He jumped on the drums, and he's a good drummer, Paul. And I said, "Well, what do we do? We keep you on drums?" He said, "Well, sometimes," he said, "we can get a proper drummer in," but he didn't sound convinced.
No, he's opened the door for it.
Was he ever going to get a proper drummer in?
And why would you? Look, I mean, I'm surprised more producers don't sit there and go, "You don't need a little triangle on that thing, Paul. I know you play everything, but just a little something."
Well, the thing is, he's got great energy. So and it was his idea, after all, to do that tempo.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let's hear, how it sounds. So I banged out on piano, started to put some chords with the idea. And we gradually that day, we kind of just layered it, finished it up. And the worst bit of doing that is then he'll sort of say, "Well, do you want to try a vocal?" I go, "But there's no song. How can I try a vocal when I don't even know remotely what I'm going to be talking about, singing about?"
Yeah.
Don't know how it goes.
So how'd you approach that?
And, well, I know this process from Fireman. So I go out and I give a big disclaimer to the engineers mainly. This may be 100% crap, because I have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to do something. And please excuse me if it is rubbish, So I just go out on the mic and I had this, I go, how does it start? Save us. I can give you everyone. So I don't know what the words are yet, so I'm going,
Just delivering phonetically to,
please. And I go, "Oh, please." I heard myself say a word. So I kind of work backwards from that, please.
It came together brilliantly. I'm out with you. Let's listen to some right now. We've got that queued up. Let's listen to Save Us to see how it ended up on the record. This is Save Us from New.
In the heat of battle, you got so
play live.
Yeah, well, it lends itself to that, and I want to talk a little bit later on before we leave. I'll make sure I get a touring question in, so prepare yourself for that one. I love that song. It really kicks the album off with intention, and you know, talking about the 4 producers, you know, you've got Ethan Johns, you know, who you've known growing up and working with
Well,
Glenn.
not so much. I haven't known him that much. I mean, I met him as a little kid.
Yeah, that's right.
And
the same thing with Mark, and to some
yeah,
respects
I knew
as well.
Mark a little more.
Giles, you know the most.
And
from
Giles, yeah.
Paul being the only one that doesn't have some feature in your life. I think you've saved one of their lives. You've helped bandage someone else's knee.
That was Ethan, yeah. I'd forgotten that. They're all basically my sons,
In some respects,
long-lost children.
Well, there's a great question from Twitter here. It's one of my favorites from Jeannie Benson saying, actually from the website, saying, which new album, producer or song took you into the newest musical territory, do you think? Without any disrespect to the others, but, you know.
I could have done it with any of them. The thing is, they're all very free. And that's what I ended up liking about them. I mean, theoretically, the most organic and the most sort of wanting to get the thing as it is would be Ethan. But, you know, when I said I'd love to do some tape loops, I'd like to do some, he loved that. So he's as ready as the others to go somewhere new, you know. But I think the thing is, a good producer will listen to you, and listen to where you want to go. So with each one of them, I'd say, you know, I don't want to just do the same old thing. You know, I want to try and find some new little areas of where we'll excite ourselves.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because, you know, there is that all through the record, and yet there's the producers have been clever, as have you perhaps, where, you know, there are reference points musically to things that have been created in the past. By you and by your friends and by people from that time.
I think some of that you can't help.
Yeah.
You know, you are yourself. I mean, throughout my career.
It is a career. By
career.
The way. You finally made the C
got
word.
a career?
You got the C
Already?
word. You got the C word.
Throughout my years of playing about, you often try to be someone else, but no matter how hard you try, it's you, and you can't help it. You know, you're writing, you may try and write songs differently, but there's always a thread because it's you, you know?
Well, let's talk about a song like New. In fact, if we've got New queued up, can we play a little bit of New, which Mark Ronson produced from the album New?
You came along and made my life a song. One lucky day, you came along just in time while I was searching for a ride. You came along, then we were new.
See, I mean, I think that's one of the standout moments on the record because it's got Mark's sound. I mean, he's a producer with his own sound. His drums in particular sound like Mark Ronson drums.
Yeah.
And yet you can tell that he's such a fan of your music that when he hears a song like New, it obviously lends itself to that approach, but there's a sense of familiarity there for Paul McCartney fans too.
Yeah.
You know, in the sound of that record.
Yeah, I think so. It's one of my songs, so it's going to sound a bit like one of my songs, no matter how much I may try and get away from it. That one I didn't try and get away from anything. It was just a sort of late night, and I was at home in London, and I got my dad's old piano that used to be at our house in Liverpool, and it's a great sound, and obviously the whole vibe, because it's my dad's, you know, I played it when I was a kid, and he played it. It's a nice instrument to play. So I just came up with that, and pretty much just wrote what you hear there, except for, you know, the third verses and the middle eight and things, but it kind of wrote itself, it just fell out. I think when you do that, that's going to be you. I mean, if I stop and go, okay, no, I don't want to do that, now let's go, come to look at me.
I guess then it's a fireman record, isn't it?
You know, if I'm
In a
going
way.
to sort of, yeah, you know, if I'm going to really sort of try and make it different, that one didn't feel like it needed much, you know, it just felt. And I brought it to Mark, and we just kind of got on with it. Tried a lot of stuff. You know, I had a very specific sort of piano and harpsichord mix, trying to get like a hybrid sound. He was great, so we followed that, you know. He's very receptive to ideas. And, you know, I don't think hurts that he was a Beatles fan.
Yeah, no, definitely. I remember when he played it to me for the first time, I think probably unlawfully during a work in progress. I'm probably saying too much, but anyway, amongst friends.
No, I knew he was playing it.
He was pretty stoked. I mean, he was pretty thrilled by what was going on at the time. I mean, you could tell he was loving the whole process of working on the record.
Well, you're good friends with him, aren't
Yeah,
you?
yeah, he's a good man. Yeah.
He is a great guy, yeah, and I sort of, loved his work and, for years.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had a great time.
So, you talked about sort of having that magic time to a place after writing, and one of the things I read recently is you said that you love places with natural reverb. Bathrooms are a natural place. I don't think you're the first person to go into a bathroom and write a song. I'd say that's quite common because of the way that it feels.
Yeah, well, it always used to be the toilet
Yeah,
in Liverpool.
Well, because it's small and
It's
contained.
a good little
and
sound,
it's a sound, you know what I mean?
and it's got a lock.
There you go. And everyone thinks you're doing something else. Now this, a bit big maybe for
Not
the
bad.
reverb. Not too bad. Sound obviously
bad.
being an important part.
Shardish.
Very shardish.
But
Shard
no,
work, yes.
so we always used to find, I think a lot of songwriters do that. One thing with me, I don't want to have anyone hear me writing a song.
Interesting.
I don't like the idea because I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to put words in I hate, and then I'm going to realize I hate them, I'm going to change it. So I don't really like anyone watching or listening to the process.
That is a constant. I mean, that's probably the thing you felt the first time you ever picked up a guitar, isn't it?
Well,
And no matter what it says to
it's difficult
musicians.
to just do it in front of people,
But it says
It's
to
a
musicians, no matter
private
how
thing.
much you achieve and how much success you have and how revered you are for the work that you've done, some things remain the same. It's still a private thing.
Oh yeah, no, you get your process. You get your process. It's good to go away somewhere that pretty much people aren't going to hear you. It's good if it's got a little bit of an acoustic, so little cupboards and cellars and bathrooms and little areas like that are good. And I like to just go and hide away. And people have said, which I think is really true, that there's a therapeutic aspect to it. So it's often really good if you're not feeling that great, and you've suddenly got a bit of time, you go, instead of saying, I'll watch some telly, it's like, I know, take your guitar and just go into this little room and start telling the guitar your troubles. Or it doesn't actually even have to be that. You just start writing a song and you feel better.
Do you push through if nothing's coming? Do you like?
Yeah,
You do.
I tend to push through, yeah. And I will tell myself that it's okay to write a rubbish verse in order to get to the second verse, because the chorus might be the good bit. That's often happened. You do your first verse, you think, this is great, this is going to be the best bit. Then you elaborate in the second verse, you go, this could be the best bit of the song. Then you find yourself in a chorus or a middle eight and you go, okay, now I know what I'm doing. And sometimes you might go back to the beginning then and say, that's not a good enough way to open this, because this is now good.
Yeah.
But it's, it's great just finding your way. And then you come out of your cupboard with, in my case, just a little bit of paper with pencil words on it. And you've got a song.
Do you keep them all? Do you keep all the pieces of paper somewhere?
No.
No? Not that kind of guy?
Some other people do, unbeknownst to me sometimes. It used to happen in the old days. We'd leave stuff lying around on Beatles sessions, and there would be guys who would kind of come in and go, oh.
I know, I'm just thinking of all the people now that are going to be rifling through your
listen to
trash
this.
looking for these discarded pieces of paper that have your
Well,
songs on
because
it.
we didn't think anything of it. We thought, well, it's just a bit of paper, because then it was.
Yeah.
Years later, I was showing my daughter Mary the library at the British Museum, because when I was a kid in Liverpool, I'd had a great library experience, and it was really like a great student thing of mine when I discovered you could go to a library and look up all the answers. I thought, yeah, well, cool. And you could just write a page, Bradshaw says, and it copy his whole page. So that's great. So I was showing her that experience, and we were going through the British Museum, and there in one of the little cases, right next to James Joyce, was me.
What?
And the lyrics of Yesterday. I thought,
Wow.
I never gave them that.
Yeah, where did they get that
Where
from?
did that come from? I found out.
Where? Can you tell us?
It was someone who'd picked them up
No.
from the Beatles session.
Wait,
yeah.
but someone had picked them up from the Beatles session and then actually decided to donate them to the museum. I think a round of applause for that person is probably in order, to be fair, because Who would
No,
normally do
wait
that?
a minute. Why wouldn't he give them back to me?
Because then you got no.
I got
give them
lots
to the
of bits
people.
of
You got lots
paper.
of bits. In fact, you
Yeah,
discarded them in the first place. You were
Well-
disrespectful to the process.
Well, in
from the
actual
very
fact,
start.
he did give them back to me.
Did he? There you go.
But no, it was amazing. You know, what I'm saying is, you know, you suddenly realise the potential value of this little bit of paper.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't
And
it?
then nowadays, of course, they all get auctioned.
Well, you know
and-
Picasso, you know, he worked it out right from the very start, didn't he? You know, signing him up for, you know, let's go get some lunch. There you go, enjoy that. So, you know, we're on the Bang & Olufsen website right here, and, you know, obviously they are one of, you know, a selection of people who are trying to find new ways to create sound and make it sound good in a day and age when it isn't always the currency which kids certainly are looking for. I mean, a lot of people listen to music through this.
Or smaller on
Do you know what I'm
phones,
saying?
you
So,
know,
I
yeah.
mean, I wondered, as someone who has listened to records being made, you know, in the 60s, in a time when they sounded a certain way, right through the 70s, through Dolby, hi-fi, the digital age. You've embraced the digital age. You love Cubase. Fireman's a digital record, you know what I mean? You love all the stuff that comes through. Do you have an era where you really felt music sounded its warmest and its best? Is there a time?
Well, you know, I think vinyl is the best. Vinyl, I mean, it just sounds good. And I asked my engineers why it sounds good. And they explained that there are frequencies above and below that you can't hear. We got into a rap with George Martin a long time ago about that. And, you know, we talked for hours about these frequencies below the sub that you couldn't really hear and the high frequencies that only dogs could hear. In fact, we put a sound on Sgt. Pepper that only dogs could hear.
And I guess it's worked, right? This is proven. It.
Well, if you ever play Sgt. Pepper, watch your dog. Suddenly you go, no, down boy.
Jokers.
No, so, you know, but that is apparently why vinyl sounds better, because there's stuff there you can't hear, but it's there, it's adding to the thing. Whereas digital, you know, if it stops at 15K or whatever it is, I'm super untechnical. It starts there, it stops there. That's all you get. There's no reason for them to put anything else on. So, but I don't really bother too much.
You don't seem like the kind of person
I
who gets
see
hung up
kids on phones. You know, my grandkids all use the devices, and they use headphones as well, so that ups the game a little bit. But I don't really worry too much because I'm the end that's got to do the song.
Yeah, well, because there's a question here from Adam Halloran on Twitter saying, do you ever get nostalgic for the way music used to sound? And I suppose you've answered that. It's not something you give in too much time to.
I don't mind it too much. I mean, you can make any piece of music sound great.
Yeah.
You listen to Jay-Z and Kanye on a phone, sounds one way. You go to their concert, it's big.
Yeah.
It's bigger than you want it.
Yeah.
You know, it's real big.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can always amplify whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me. But I think, you know, out of everything, I think why vinyl is reappearing amongst the young kids is that it is the ultimate way to listen to a piece of music.
Well, one of the songs on the record which I love is called Early Days, and it's one of the most sort of stripped bare songs, and it also lyrically it poses all sorts of interesting questions for someone like me. And I'd like to play a little bit of that song right now, Early Days, from Paul's new album called New. You know what you like to.
Now everybody seems to have their own opinion. Who did this and who did that? But as for me, I don't see how they can remember when they weren't where it was at.
Now, I listened to this lyric on the train.
Yeah.
And I literally had my headphones on and I listened to this lyric, and as that lyric was unfolding, my mouth was opening wider and wider because I was like, how are you going to finish this line, right? And I loved it. It was like, and the thing about dignified silence, right, is that everybody else feels that they can fill that gap with a lot of noise, with a lot of opinions and a lot of this and a lot of that.
Yeah.
And it feels like on this record, as you've done at various points through your career, but you wanted to say something about that.
Yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, particularly in the case of the Beatles, Wings, that history is now a long time ago. And I mean, I couldn't believe when my kids first came home from school and were in the history books, you know, so it's getting kind of legendary, whether you do anything about it or not. But what's happening is some of the stories are morphing a little bit. And I'll talk to someone and go, whoa, 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 that didn't happen. And so you do think, well, should I just shut up, let them get on with their versions of it, or while I'm able to tell them, that's why we did the anthology with the Beatles. It was to be the definitive version because so many stories were going around. So yeah, I just thought it is good. When Sam Taylor Johnson did her film Nowhere Boy, she showed me the script and everything on it, and there were a couple of things. John's Aunt Mimi was a cruel, wicked old bitch. And I said, whoa, Sam, I said, she wasn't like that. She was really quite nice, but she had to be strict because she was bringing up this young Liverpool boy who needed a little bit of discipline. And so she put that in the script. And then I said, well, there's a couple of other little bits, you know, and we talked about them. In the end, she said, yeah, but, you know, it's good for the film.
Gotta let it go.
It's a film,
Yeah,
you know,
man.
it's not a documentary. The only two bits I hated, John knocks me down
Which never
in
happened.
the film. Never happened.
Right.
Come on.
Reckon you could have handled it? Reckon?
Well, that's what I'm saying. No, it just never came to him. It never came to him.
Yeah.
But in the film, he actually decks me, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm going, And then the other thing was, this is pure vanity.
Yeah.
I'm smaller than him in the film. And I'm not. I was never. We were like exactly the same.
No, but it's not just
height,
vanity
you know.
because, I mean, because that sends a message to people watching
It's
it. that
historical,
it's a stature
man.
thing as
Paul
well,
is
you
the
know?
little guy. John is the
There you
sort of
go.
big, wonderful, smart guy. And then we go in and we do In Spite of All the Danger, which was just some little crazy little song we'd written. In the film, it's John's ode to his mother. And John is, you know, well, I was there. And I saw him make it. I saw us make it.
And when you're a
And
filmmaker,
it
you've
was
got to
nothing
think about
like
the way that it features with
But
the
it's for a
narrative.
film.
And
Now the question is, are people going to remember that that's the film version
Yeah.
and not the historical truth?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what gets me, you know, is some of these things end up as facts. Anyway, but like, you know, Sam and I decided that she was making a film, not a documentary, so... And I think she made a good film.
I've been told I have one more question, but I promised people I'd talk about tour, so we'll get a quick answer on that really quickly. But before that, I love this question here, and there's so many I wish we had time to talk about. But this one is, unfortunately, it's anonymous from the website, but I'm assuming it's true. You came along and made my life a song. Do you realize that that line describes how a lot of people feel about you? And what I loved about that is that every time I've met you, you were such a down-to-earth, very nice guy, but you're also very aware of what your music and the music that you and your friends throughout your life have given to people. You know, is it something that you acknowledge?
Well, that's really nice. I mean, I'm really writing it about Nancy. But I do love that thing about songs, is that when you release them, they become people's property. They're not mine anymore. So that if someone puts a meaning on one of my songs that suits them, or in this case, you know, that's they think it's about me,
Yeah.
then that's great. I mean, I can only be complimented by that. And I really am massively complimented. I will walk along the street in London or New York, and I will really quite often get people, hey man, I just got to tell you, you changed my life, man. Your music. Well, it's kind of, it's a biggie,
Yeah.
you know, and it is like, so I really do love that. We didn't set out to do that. We were 4 kids originally who set out just to make some money, buy a guitar, maybe a car. And that was sort of the only motivation, have some fun, get a few girls.
Yep.
With the list is building.
Still doing that though. Still, yeah, there you go. Okay, so we've got to say goodbye, but will you tour this record?
Yeah,
You will tour it?
yeah, for you.
Does
I will tour
Oh, you biggie smoothie.
Japan next in November.
Great, and
No.
obviously songs from this record will start to integrate this stuff
Yeah.
into like great because it's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
designed for that, you know. So we're live at the Shard, and I hope everybody who's been watching this worldwide has enjoyed that. I most certainly have, and thank you so much for your time as
That's
always.
great.
mate.
No, thank you, Joe.
Great to see you, Paul.
And see you folks worldwide. Lovely to think about it.
All right, cool. Maybe you should give us some music just to take us
The
out, so it
global-
doesn't feel
okay.
awkward, you know, in the silence. We're not sure
Yeah,
if we're
man.
off the air. Are we on the air? We
just
just
go,
use this
yeah.
as we've got some credits. We can run some credits now over the end.
I rode a big green bus. I could see everything from the upper deck. People came and went, smoking cigarettes. I picked
Bye, everybody.
All the time I thought of you. Thank you.